I gave myself exactly one rule: build a real, deployable full-stack app from scratch in a single weekend and write as little code by hand as possible. Let the AI agent do the heavy lifting. Now, today in this explainer, we're cutting through the hype to give you the honest version of how this actually went. Where did the agent absolutely fly? Where did it completely stumble? And what is the exact workflow that keeps you from ending up with a giant pile of code that just almost works?
Okay, here is the roadmap for how we're going to break this down. We'll start with the rules of engagement, then look at why planning first is completely non-negotiable. After that, we'll cover the insanely fast backend build, the subtle trap of almost right code, finishing the front end and live deployment, and finally, we'll wrap up with the master workflow.
Section 1. The rules of engagement and setting the stakes. Look, to really put an AI agent through its paces, we couldn't just build another simple to-do list demo. We needed something real. So the target was a job application tracker, which is obviously super relevant for the market right now. The spec is straightforward. Users add applications, set statuses like applied, interviewing, or rejected, add some notes, and view it all on a unified dashboard. It is the perfect size, small enough to build in an afternoon, but real enough to hit every single layer of the stack: database, backend API, front end, the whole shebang.
But to keep the experiment honest, I set 3 extremely strict rules. First, I drive the agent. No handwriting features to save time. Second, it has to actually deploy to a live server, not just run safely on my local machine where everything is easy. And third, I have to review everything it writes. Honestly, this is the exact mindset you need for success. Treat the AI like a brilliant, incredibly fast, but totally inexperienced junior developer submitting a pull request. It has never seen your codebase, and it desperately needs your oversight.
Which brings us to Section 2. Plan first, code second. The crucial steps.
Without a doubt, the single most important action taken during this entire build was forcing the agent to stop and write a detailed plan before generating a single line of code. The math on this is just undeniable. Think about it. Reading a written plan that outlines the data model and tech choices, that takes about 30 seconds. Reading 2,000 lines of generated code to figure out what the AI randomly decided to do behind your back, that takes an hour. Forcing a plan saves a massive amount of time and headache.
And here's a perfect example of why that planning step is so vital. Left completely to its own devices, the agent wanted to create an entire separate complex database table just for the job statuses. Total overkill for an app this size. Because we caught this in the planning phase, correcting it took literally 1 sentence, just saying, make status a simple field, not a separate table, instead of having to untangle 3 files deep of interconnected code later on.
All right, Section 3. Building the backend fast. The honeymoon phase.
So with the plan approved, the AI agent absolutely crushed it. It rapidly scaffolded the entire backend. It instantly set up the database schema, built out the API endpoints, and successfully wired up all the create, read, update, and delete routes. It even surprised me by adding a first pass at input validation completely unprompted. This is the genuine superpower of an AI agent, executing well-understood, well-documented backend patterns at breakneck speed.
But that speed can actually be pretty dangerous if you leave it unchecked. The golden rule here is simple. Test your endpoints as they land. You absolutely cannot let the agent build 3 features deep without verifying the first one actually works. You have to maintain momentum by poking at each endpoint, confirming the data is correct, and only then moving on to the next one. Let's move to Section 4, the almost right code trap, the reality check.
This brings us to a really harsh reality of AI coding, perfectly summarized by this thought: it ran fine, it was still wrong. During the build, the update endpoint for the API looked pristine. Clean code, sensible structure, and it executed without a single crash. But beneath that perfect exterior, there was a massive flaw.
And this highlights a really vital concept to internalize. Broken code, code that throws a massive error and crashes everything, is actually your best friend because it's instantly obvious. You see the red text, you fix it. But almost right code, that is incredibly dangerous. It looks clean, it runs perfectly, but it hides silent, logical flaws. AI failures aren't usually sloppy, they're confident, and that means they will easily slip right into production if you aren't paying close attention.
So what was the silent flaw? The update endpoint allowed updating a record without ever checking who actually owned it. Yeah, that meant any logged-in user could freely edit anyone else's job applications. It's a huge security hole that looked totally normal at a passing glance. Catching this proved exactly why human oversight and a deep understanding of the system is just non-negotiable. You have to tell the agent the specific gap, have it write the fix, and then verify that fix yourself.
Moving on to Section 5, Front-End and Live Deployment, the polish and the wall.
Building the React front-end dashboard was actually super fun. You can just iterate the UI using plain English commands, like asking the agent to make the status a colored badge or to add a nice empty state when there are no applications. But there's a catch. AI default styling is purely functional and entirely forgettable. It produces incredibly generic UI. If you want something that actually looks good, human taste and very specific visual direction, like spacing and exact color choices, are strictly required. The agent will build the buttons, but the taste is completely on you.
Okay, so the front end looked good and it was time to deploy. And this is exactly where we hit a massive wall called environment blindness. This is the AI's complete inability to see or test a live deployed environment. When the app went live, it instantly broke. Why? Because the front end was still pointing at the local API address on my computer, not the newly deployed live server. The AI literally cannot see your live production server. The human has to step in, point it to the right production variables, and redeploy.
Finally, Section 6, the winning AI workflow, your master framework. So if you're going to use an AI agent to build software, this is the exact master workflow you need to follow. Step 1, force it to plan before it writes a single line of code. Step 2, review that plan carefully, catching those architectural errors early. Step 3, test every single piece of the application as it lands. Do not let it just run away with your codebase. And Step 4, you have to own the security, the live environments, and the visual taste, because the AI simply cannot. If you follow this structure, an AI agent is an incredible force multiplier. But if you skip it, you're just going to end up with a really fast pile of almost right code.
Which leaves us with one final question for you. Now that you've seen the honest reality of guiding an AI from a totally blank slate to a live, working application, what is the most ambitious thing you've actually shipped with an AI agent? Think about how this master workflow could completely change your next build. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I highly encourage you to test out these planning steps on whatever you build next.